basically she meets with her mother, who kind of helps take her on a journey to understand who she is, why these things are happening, and why it's important that she keeps her powers. And so we kind of left it on a note where we can continue it as a series, which we would actually like to do eventually.
And the fun thing is we further explore her relationship with Liam, and there is a villain in this story who is present in every single past life that further goes around to what she's dealing with in her present life. So it's really one of those.
It's kind of really like she's really got a lot to discover, and it helps you understand the deeper connections around her and why it's so important for her to learn to embrace who she actually is.
And her magic.
Yes.
Fascinating. Yeah. So I'm really curious then, because you two have such different styles, how you were able to collaborate on this novella. Like, do you each, like, does one person write a chapter and the other person then kind of edit it? Do you work on an outline? Are you working, together in the same room at the same time and just kind of go that way, or what is your process like?
I wish it was smooth. So there's so many different types of writers, and so many different writing styles, and there's not one that's more right than the other. It's just a part of your different personalities. And with Rachel's I'm just going to sit down on the computer and just start typing, and it's just going to come out. She goes, I don't know where it's going, but it's going somewhere. And for me, I can do that, but I also need some type of plan. I need a guidance. I need to know that, okay, what are you doing with this? So there would be multiple conversations where, like, we would just do it at random times. We would use Google Docs so you can see when somebody added something or is typing. And there would be so many moments where I would just look at her and go, all right, where are you trying to go with this? And then she would be like, I don't know. And then I would get mad. Like, there was at least a month where I just didn't write because I was like, I don't know where this is going. This is stressing me out. Until I had the conversation with her and was like, all right. So we had to find, like, a common ground of a communication. It wasn't easy at all.
No.
But we did.
I eventually explained to her, because like I said, I kind of stumbled upon this writing thing, and it comes naturally for me. So I have to sometimes step back myself and realize that there are different types of writers, and working with Jenna is kind of the best way for me to learn that. So I finally looked at her and I was like, listen, there is no right or wrong way to do this. I just kind of had a bout of inspiration. I wrote, and if you want to change something, tweak it. And then she looked at me and she's like, what do you mean tweak it? I'm like, I'm like, if you see it going somewhere else, feel free to take it somewhere else, and then we'll work from there. So after the initial, like, frustration with each other, that's when it was kind of like, okay. Then we started figuring out how to kind of piece it together.
It was helpful when we would get together and talk about it. We would just start, because then we would get excited and we would, like, come up with ideas. I was like, well, we can take it this way and this can do that. And that was kind of, I think, when we talked it out, was our saving grace.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
For sure. So you both have also then co-founded this company called Writelyme.
Yes.
So what made you want to start a company, and what does Writelyme focus on?
Well, honestly, we kind of looked at each other one day and we realized there was so much more we could be doing than what we are doing. And we wanted to make a change in a positive way. And we started trying to think of the ways we can do that. And when we started this, we were still so in the beginning stages of our writing journey that we didn't feel like we had a bunch of experience to call ourselves writing coaches or experts, or to start giving people this advice, because one of our biggest things is to be authentic.
Yes.
But what we did understand was the struggle that comes with writing and how alone you can feel and not knowing what the right move is. And we met so many people that kept telling us, oh, I could never write a book. It's impossible. And then we would get frustrated because we're like, no, you can do it. Like, we did it and it's not impossible. So by starting Writelyme, it was an outlet to teach people the tools that they need to kind of start this journey and go on this journey. And then it kind of just blossomed into so much more.
Yes. And along the way, the other side of it too is to help people realize that you're not alone. There is a community. There are people out here. it's a lot. It's very hard to finding the time when you're trying to do so many different things. You know, if you're a parent, if you're juggling a job, if you have all sorts of things happening, we get it. It's a lot to juggle, and we understand what it's like to sometimes just feel overwhelmed by it. Something that should be a passion sometimes starts to feel like a project.
So Writelyme is a community for writers, and we'll offer services and products, but we're also there for people. We'll also hop on the phone with anyone, we'll answer any emails, and we're there to help. So it's kind of just, we call it the writing journey.
Yes.
And we point that every journey is different and explain that each of ours was, and the roadblocks that go along the way. We're there to help people overcome those roadblocks, whatever that means to them.
Exactly.
Sure. So is this non-fiction writers, fiction writers? Does it matter?
It does not matter at all. And anytime that we even explored other mediums, because we have other friends who write in other mediums. So even if we don't know the answer to something, we try to connect people to the person who does. So, but I would say mainly me and her personally, we're fiction writers, but we take any writers.
Because now we've both worked with Running Wild Press, and we also know a friend who does a small press, which is 30 West in the Philadelphia area. So both do very different styles of things. 30 West is mostly known for like its poetry side. Running Wild does a lot of novellas and short stories. So we're being able to branch out and meet new people, build our relationships. So like Jenna was saying, when we don't have an answer, we can reach out to somebody and say, hey, how would you help somebody, or how would you guide somebody on this? Because that's what we want to be able to do.
You mentioned that in addition to having a support group, you also offer services. What kinds of predetermined services does your company offer?
Okay. So I would say our biggest one is, I would rather call us a book coach than editors. We'll work with a writer on the creation of their book, whether that's they need developmental editing, planning, just kind of wherever there's loss.
Maybe they need character development or world, like just kind of how to build their setting around different things like that.
Yes. So we do that. We also have done consulting for a bunch of small presses.
Yes.
And then a lot of it is product based. So we have a workbook and an ebook called How to Write a Novel, which is the first of our series. This one is the beginner's guide to the story writing process. So it's kind of just laying down the foundation of your novel so that you're kind of setting yourself up for success. So kind of just teaching the tools on that end. And we also have our fun character cards and plot cards, which we created, which are these index cards that prompt you to fill out either a scene in your story or a way to develop your characters. And then you have like these handful of these index cards, and you just get to spread them out in front of you. And that has to be my favorite product of ours, because I've used that so many times.
We use that on the novella together, which it really helps kind of jumpstart the whole process with that.
Because it's like, well, I don't know where this is going. Okay, let me lay this out, and you can move around and play with it.
And it's a more fun way of doing an outline than just kind of sitting down with a piece of paper. It kind of, in a way, it kind of reminds you of being in school again, but it's just fun to do it.
Sure. So since you work with a number of different authors, and you both have extensive experience in the publishing and writing world, what's some bad advice that you see out in the industry right now, or what's some bad thing, or bad habits that a lot of writers come when they come and visit you? Like, what are some things that you see in that?
I think mine's going to sound a little broad, but I think the biggest thing is I notice that a lot of people feel like there's a right or wrong way when it comes to writing. Like, I have to do something a certain way, or I'm not going to be able to write a book, or I won't be able to publish it, or I have to dedicate this amount of time or do this certain thing, when that's not it at all.
I think another thing I could say, and it's good to have, I think, mentors in this field. It's good to have somebody, like, people that you can connect with, that you feel safe with when you're doing your writing. I mean, someone who's going to be honest with you and critique you in a positive way. But I think sometimes as writers, we start to listen to too many voices, which gives you too many opinions, and it can start to change the entire flow of what works for you. I think as a writer, a form of it is art. So I feel like as kind of performing that art, we should just kind of but do what's authentic to us. So if somebody really likes writing their thrillers or their fictions, or if they want to write memoirs and that's what they want to do, I would always encourage to do what you want to do, what you want to write about. Mm-hmm. Unless you're ready to branch off and try new things, then you do things that work for you as you change, as your journey changes.
So basically it's not losing your voice, but writing's a craft. So you can always work on your craft. You can always perfect it. You can always learn more. There's always more to learn, but don't lose your voice in the process.
Exactly.
Sure.
That, and the last piece of advice, if a publishing company wants you to pay them to publish their book, it's a scam. Don't do it. That's the biggest thing.
Do you hear that often about people?
Vanity publishing houses. It's such a big thing, and it's
a shame because people really just get ripped off is what happens. And it's after all that hard work you put into it, because you put a lot of work into writing. It takes a lot of time and dedication, and then it's a shame when you see people just get completely ripped off in that regard.
Yes.
Yeah. So in your own writing careers and writing styles, what has been the best investment you've made to improve them?
Ooh, I like that question.
You know what? Me personally, building the relationships in the writing community. So from small presses that we've become friends with, going to writers' conferences, going to that poetry reading or joining something writing related and meeting new people. We just did a book festival in Collingswood, New Jersey recently, and I think the best thing we got out of that day was what ended up happening, like networking. The woman next to us was amazing. We built like a connection with her, the people behind us. So when you do that, you're also opening up, I think, your mind to help you kind of see, like, these were two people who did completely different writing from us. And then it's fun to learn new things. And it just takes you kind of down a new journey, maybe, that you didn't think you would go down.
Mm-hmm. So earlier, Rachel, you mentioned that Jenna pushes you a little bit to go past what you're afraid of and kind of expand what you're working on. I'm curious for both of you, beside having, Jenna push you along, when you hit times when you're fearful or apprehensive about, putting your work out there or even starting your company, how do you push past your fear?
Well, I won't lie. Sometimes it's that nice glass of wine that kind of just, you take that glass of wine and you're like, okay, I can grow some guts with this one. A lot of the times it's more or less, I've started to realize that as I want to grow personally, just personal growth in general. So if that means like me growing as a writer, I've learned I have to do what makes me uncomfortable. A lot of the times it's just kind of looking at each other and being like, we're not in this alone. So we we work to each other's strengths and weaknesses. So usually my strengths are her weaknesses and her weaknesses, and her strengths are my weaknesses. So it just kind of, it plays in that regard. So if it's something I don't really know how to do and she says we're going to do it, but I can kind of lead the way and vice versa, it helps to know we're not really alone on this and somebody's always with us in the journey.
My answer to this is kind of how I've been coaching Rachel is this year I said my theme for this year is to do what scares me. And if I'm not feeling uncomfortable in what I'm doing, then it's not big enough. And so with that, I normally sign Rachael up for something. Like we created our chapbooks and did our first poetry reading. And our best way of combating that, I was like, yeah, I signed this up and I didn't think about this or how scary it would be, but it's too late now. So I put us in that predicament, and then I go, but we're just going to wing it.